I love learning. When I learn something new that I find interesting, I get so happy to do this weird little giggle. I'm really excited. There's so much curriculum and there's so much information that my teacher just kind of throws it at us and says, okay, go for it. The goal is good. It's really interesting information and it's totally relevant and awesome. But there's this wall that's blocking us, and a lot of us are trying to get over it, but the teachers, it takes too much effort.
At Agora High, a small public school 20 miles north of Los Angeles, students are actively trying to climb the wall that keeps them from real learning. Marlena, a freshman on the Agora Student Council, is heavily involved in the issue.
That's the perception. That's the idea that we're teaching our children. That success is getting into a good college, and you get into a good college with memorization and bullshit.
Over my career, I have done a great deal of observing in classrooms and talking to teachers. And it occurred to me as I was observing that many, if not most, classrooms were set up so that the teacher seemed to be a manager who wanted her students to do their work, produce products like the factory model.
If it's a job, then you're only doing it because you have to or to get a letter so that you can go on to college. One of two things, and possibly both, are happening. Either you're not learning anything of value, or nothing of value is being taught. Yeah, then okay, great, you survived 12 years, 16 years, whatever, and then what?
And in fact, if you go back in history to early 20th century and maybe even earlier, the impetus was efficient production in factories. And so schools were divided into classes, and those classes were filled with workers who had to produce efficiently.
People assume school, you do the work the teacher gives you. You study for the test, you get a grade. I'm going to go to school, I'm going to learn different things, but then how can I take that and actually apply it to my own life and find new interests and things? So I think a lot of kids don't make the connection that school can be that way. They just fall into the pit hole of studying, doing worksheets, studying for tests, all this stuff that isn't interesting. So it's really what you make of it.
There's a general metaphor of communication, which is that communicating is sending. So I'm giving something to you, which gives rise to a notion that teaching is putting ideas in kids' heads. And we just give it to them, they take the ideas out and so on, as if there were no other interaction needed. This is like spoon feeding kids.
And you don't have school on Monday, so I can give you more work?
Beloved AP Literature teacher Deborah Frank, a staunch advocate of student-teacher relations, is pushing for reform at Agora High on the teachers' front.
Some of my teachers are more based on just the basic information, and then I have other teachers that, like Mrs. Frank, or other teachers I have, that really you find meaning in what they're saying and you can really relate it.
It happens in Mrs. Frank's class where we're applying what we're learning. We're getting articles and cross-curricular activity between all these classes.
Deborah Frank is the best teacher I've ever met. Anytime I think I'm doing a good job, I'll go watch her class and go, I suck. I'm just horrific.
I think when my first job was at Chatsworth, and I had this class, they had 7 substitute teachers. The 4th day of school, the assistant principal came in to see me, and she said, I'm really sorry, but the textbooks are delayed, so we have no textbooks for you. And so basically that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because then what I had to do was make my own curriculum, and it's never changed from that day forward. Pretty much we have a student leader. I draw the name out of the hat. If you guys know the reading, you'll come in prepared with 5 questions, and everybody has to come in prepared because you don't know who's going to lead. And then we have a conversation. And I know you guys struggled with that conversation. So why do you think you struggled with it? Is it because of what Ben just said?
I think it's difficult to read when you have, like, you're reading for a reason versus if you're just reading just to read.
I don't think we need to change the metaphor of the workplace in school. I think we need to change the connotation behind it. Like, exactly what you're saying. Like, if we did work, and it's still work, whether we like it or not, but if we did work and we pretended there was no assignment and just did it to enjoy it and to actually get something out of it, I think that it wouldn't be bad to call school a workplace.
Yahoo.com makes everybody, they can't work from home anymore. They have to come to the workplace because ideas are generated around the water cooler or around the lunch table. That's could be a new kind of workplace.
I think maybe like a team, almost like a sports team, because on a sports team, like your coach, it's like more of like your mentor.
One of my personal heroes is John Wooden, and John Wooden always referred to himself as a teacher, not as a coach. And Wooden never wanted to call timeouts, never really wanted to give instructions during games. He viewed his job as during practice, to prepare you, and then when we get to the competition, that's when you demonstrate what you've learned. And you're a little bit of an advisor, but mostly hands-off.
I think it's very much like a team, because in a team you have different athletes, different performances. You have more high performance and low performance, but everyone's working together to grow, to become better. And I think in school it's kind of like that.
It's so important to cooperate. I mean, any kind of scientific endeavor is a cooperative endeavor. Scientists don't go off by themselves and do things. Technology development requires cooperation. You go to any serious business, it involves cooperation all over the place. That's what education is centrally about. It's not competition.
The part where I think the sports team metaphor breaks down is the competition aspect. There's no wins and losses.
The team, you have to work together because you collectively win or you lose. And so I don't know if school's like that now, but I think you can have that mentality. No, it's not just about me getting to this college or you, but about like all of these students together just becoming better people and contributing to society and making the world a better place.
Jessica L. Jelinski, an Agora High junior and a member of the Student Council Committee, is wrestling with the question of how to change the factory model of education.
I mean, do you think like change is possible? I mean, it's so hard to stick with something when everyone's so reluctant to change. And so I'm just wondering, what do you think is the best way to create change?
I think that when teachers become more confident in their ability to transmit information in a way that's productive and meaningful, and that really comes from the students, and they don't see themselves as being the only disseminator of that information, then I think it will change.
I think the belief that this is the way to do it is really ingrained into our minds, into our children's minds. I mean, I was a young child, and I already knew that this was the way to do it, is that you give them things to accomplish, and you accomplish a worksheet. There was no deeper thought. And as a young child, I already knew that. So people are uncomfortable with change. I mean, it's going to be difficult. If we really want that deeper level of thinking, it's going to require that we revolutionize the entire education system. And that's scary.
And if you would go literally, all these English teachers were down the row, some really, teachers who worked hard and really wanted their kids to learn. But pretty much their classes and their curriculum looked the same. And they were all using the textbook, and they were all pretty much talking about metaphors and similes like all day long. And I wasn't really doing that, and I thought I wasn't a very good teacher. But I felt so confused because I thought, okay, on this hand, I don't think I'm a good teacher because I'm not doing what these other teachers are doing. But on the other hand, in my classroom, I know good things are happening. like my kids are responding and we're talking about really important issues, and they're doing work and they're writing and they're being very forthcoming, and I felt like, okay, isn't this what learning is all about?
Every once in a while I'd be in a classroom where it was different. The teacher was not so focused on getting work done, but rather on whether the students were really learning. One fifth grade teacher, who I call Teacher K, she presented her lessons as what we're going to learn about today. She'd say, get ready to think. You're going to use your brains.
A major shortcoming of factory model education is a lack of connection between teachers and students. How important is this in creating a learning environment?
Like, it's really like valuable to me to have a connection with a teacher. Like, I think for a lot of teachers it's like that too. Like, I think your connection with your student or your mentor is so important, because that really, it really does affect your perspective.
Other views, which is teaching is nurturance. That is, teaching is caring about someone, caring about a child, and getting the child to understand through nurturance.
I think it's just important for the teachers to hear our voice. I mean, even if something doesn't get done, like, these are the initial steps to having things get done.
One of the most beautiful things about Agora is the opportunities for students. I mean, as you've heard from me, there's obviously, we know what's going on. We understand what's going on, and we're not happy with it. School isn't typically regarded as a pleasant place. It's somewhere that you come for 6 hours every day and you're locked there and you stare at the clocks and you wait to get out. The typical student doesn't regard it as something that's going to shape their future, make them a better person. And that's what it needs to be. But Agora really gives us the opportunities to have our voice be heard. The meeting we just had a couple days ago was teachers who were interested. They wanted to hear the student perspective, and although there was a little bit of resistance, they know that at least we care about what's going on.
Agora students completed a survey about their educational experiences called We Learn. In many areas, Agora was above national averages, but like many schools, Agora still showed room for some improvement.
So what happens is they give you the survey, they give the kids a survey, and it's like Scantron, or like fill in the answer kind of thing. So with council, we each have a homeroom where we're a homeroom representative. So we went in, we gave the survey, we collected them, we sent them into the place where they all go to, and they looked at them and evaluated them and compared our statistics with the national results.
A group of specially chosen students with an interest in educational issues discussed these results with the teachers to strategize on how to improve.
There are students like you that are natural-born leaders, driven, get their stuff done, and then there are students that don't.
So I think that presents a problem with maybe the relationships between the teachers and the students.
Number 47 and number 17 on relationships, in terms of students feeling as if the teachers know them and know their goals and their interests outside of school. To be in the 20s, I think, is a pretty poor reflection there,
The bottom line is that students have more power than they think. They have the capability of reshaping the factory system of education and practicing a new metaphor.
We feel like we need to be the pressure on the teachers, because change is hard, period. I think the students have a lot of say. Also on next Wednesday we have homeroom visits, so we're going to be sharing the results with the students. So that should be really interesting. I think that they understood our point, and the only thing I'm worried about is hearing all this and then nothing will happen, because that's what tends to happen. They hear everything, but I really do think it made an impact, because a lot of teachers after class, like my chem teacher, for instance, were just talking the whole period about it.
A few of them were on the same page as me, but others kept trying to rebut my argument by just saying, well, our classes are too big, and well, we have to teach this curriculum. And so I understand that there are certain requirements for them, but they wanted to deny some of the issues. And a question that we were bringing up a lot of the time was, so how can we change this? So what can we do? And they didn't really want to discuss that. They acknowledged the issues, but then wanted to just sweep them under the rug and move on.
When you start doing things in your classroom and kids respond to it, then people want to be a part of it. But nobody wants to try it first. So like when I started doing Socratic dialogues here in my classroom, and they were pretty bad at the beginning, it was, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Then I just didn't give up, because I felt like I didn't want to do a class the other way. Like I didn't want to come in every day and just have it be, open up your textbooks or whatever. So I just hung in there. And then I think I became a better facilitator too, because I learned how to use those teachable moments. Like when a kid says something, I learned how to respond as a person. You can see I'm very much the same like in my classroom as I am now. So I learned how to take advantage of those moments, and then trust my instincts and go for them.
The responsibility to change the system does not lie solely with the teachers or with the students. The factory model is so ingrained in our culture that it will take all of us working together to move past that metaphor. Kids, talk with your teachers. Teachers, talk with your students. Parents, talk to everybody. Without communication, there is no hope for improvement. As Joseph Campbell once so eloquently stated, if you want to change the world, change the metaphor. What's your metaphor for education?